Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a good friend, and a professional turned entrepreneur, an author, fellow member of the YPO, talking to us from Mauritius, originally from Switzerland, Mr. Marc-Antoine Tschopp. Matt, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Ash, and thank you very much for taking this time.
Thank you. Matt, in his own words, is a conscious whisperer. He's an author, and all of you know I'm always very partial to authors. He's an author of a book titled Elevating CEO Consciousness, 6 Steps for Leadership in the Storm. And as I mentioned, he's a fellow member of the YPO. So Matt, first question, tell me about your own journey in brief.
So very quickly, and I think it's a journey that many can relate to, trying to do the best when you has the chance to go to university. So I have 2 degrees, one in psychology, one in economics. So when I come out, I'm interesting for corporations. I go and work for the bank, bring me to New York, to Hong Kong, and then go and work for consultant, McKinsey. And after that, take over the family business, which I turn around and sell. And when I'm 41, I am retiring.
Wow.
So then I need to learn what it means to live without a business and trying to do something which I was trying to, which is being happy. But I find success in what I did, but I was not happy. So then started a new journey, beginning of 2000, when positive psychology starts also, is trying to understand what makes people happy, what is meaning, what is thriving in life. And since that, I continued that journey.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you. So let's come to your book now, Matt, which is Elevating CEO Consciousness, 6 Steps for Leadership in the Storm. And before I ask you a question, I'm going to ask all our viewers and listeners to go and check out Marc-Antoine Tschopp's book that I just spoke about. My first question about the book is, how do you define consciousness in the context of leadership? And why is it crucial for CEOs today?
So the definition is not mine. In fact, it's from Deepak Chopra. And he says, consciousness is the knowing of an experience. So as business leader, we need to have a lot of knowings in the sense that we are sample informations. So we have our management information systems, and we try out once we have this knowing and we find experience, which means the more experience I have on the field, the better I can take a decision. Now, in current world, we are so focused and looking only on certain aspect of our business, especially when the business is in tension. The tendency is to just look at our numbers, for example, or look at the market, and we don't see everything that is around us. But as good leader, we need to broaden our capacity to perceive and experience as much as we can. This is consciousness. And that's why I have those 6 steps to elevate the perception, the understanding, the experience, the knowing of everything that is around us to the CEO. And the CEO is not only the CEO of a corporation, it's also myself or yourself as a CEO of your own journey.
Very interesting. And you just spoke about 6 steps, which you've also written about in your book. Could you briefly describe these steps and what is their significance?
So yes, the first one, and I think you mentioned, Ash, that you studied different spiritual teachings, and most of them are coming from India. So one thing that I gained from India is meditation. So the first step is linked to this. It means pause. So first, when something happens, I need to learn how to pause. And pause is breathing, can be meditation, can be just standing up and so on. The second step is observe. Again, consciousness, knowing of experience means I need to have a moment to observe everything that is happening around me. But to get that capacity to observe everything, I need to be calm. I need to pause. So the third step, and that one is kind of easy, but the one that we mostly do is decide as leaders. But we see how many times we have an issue when we don't decide. So taking the decision is really the steps, which means taking ownership of what's happening. That's the third step. The fourth step comes the question, but what to decide? How can I make the best decision? And here come the first or the fifth step, the fourth step, which is respect yourself. It has to do with self-compassion, understanding why am I here? Or why am I here as a corporation? Where do I come from? Where do I go? How do I want to behave? Those value systems. And finally, what blocks me to be the best version of myself? Those are limiting beliefs and traumas and emotional bonds. So understanding that, once I understand and have a clear vision where I want to go, why I want to go, how I want to go, then it's quite easy to take the proper decision. Then the fifth step is, once I take the decision that is good for me or for my corporation, I need to be conscious of the surrounding, which is who is around me. And that's respecting the relationship. Fifth step is just respect the relationship that I have or we have with our customers, our employees, but not only that, all the stakeholders, also, for example, the environment, and that's why we're talking a lot about sustainability today. So being conscious of respecting the relationship and not the other. If we come in a relationship with somebody, the difficulty for many is I try to please somebody, thinking that I know what is good for the other. And that creates so much tension and so much problems. And I say, nobody can know what is good for you. The only person that knows what is good for you is you. It's so simple, huh? But as leaders, sometimes we want to take care of our employees or customers, so when we think we know better than them. So getting rid of this thinking that I should know what is good for the others, instead, respecting the relationship is so important, and let the other do what they need. It's very, I think it's something very common when I talk about selling things. Once we understand, we need to understand the needs of a customer before we can do a sell. So, but in also in leadership relationships, so important. So the fifth one is respect the relationship and don't care about the others, kind of exaggerating. And the sixth step, and that step has a lot to do with the spiritual world or the journey that we all receive. The sixth step, it's probably the most difficult one and the most challenging one in the business world, is don't expect anything in return. And once we understand that sentence, really, then abundance comes. And it's linked to creating abundance in our world. If I'm not focused on something, but I don't accept anything, suddenly everything arrives and I see everything. But it's very challenging, this, for the business world, because we have budgets, we have KPIs, and we fight for them. But it creates, again, so much tension and so much bad decisions because we are so focused on our goals, on our monthly or 3 months results or year results, and we don't see the big picture anymore, especially in a world that we are facing today, which is a disrupting world, where we call it viewcast world. We know the vulnerability, the uncertainty, the complexity, the ambiguity. This is known since many years, but now it comes more extreme, all those changes, and the speed to which they come, it's stronger, and also it creates so much turbulence. So in that world, we need to really understand what it means. Journey in your where you think is right, so doing the best for you, respecting the relationship, and not expecting anything in returns will help many corporations to become very agile.
What a great response. And just to recap, your 6 steps are: pause, observe, decide, respect yourself, respect relationships, and don't expect anything in return. And I'll come to each one of these. But let's talk about the first step, Matt. Your first step is pause. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of pausing in a decision-making process, especially in a high-stake situation?
So there are many examples, and the best example is one. It's I think Winston Churchill. When it comes to him and there is tension, we need to take a decision. War is here, and the guy says, "Okay, I sleep on it and I come tomorrow." So the best, I think, we all know that when we can sleep on important decisions, we are much more wiser the next day. And that example is very simple, because if we receive an email and we answer that email that is a little bit creating tension in us, and we don't send it, but read it again the next day, we will never send this email. We all know that.
Yeah.
So it's really, when it's at stake, it's more important to have the capacity to say, okay, let pause and take the right decision. Now, there are moments where urgency is here. And when we have urgency, as an example, and I hope I don't talk too much, but I want to give you an example.
Please.
Why do firemen train constantly? Why do doctors train constantly in urgent rooms? Because when urgency comes, you cannot think. You just have to behave and process what you have learned to do. So you will repeat behaviors that you know well, but there is no creativity. It's very difficult to become creative. But when in today's world where it's so much challenging, we need to have new solutions. And I think it's Einstein who say you cannot solve a problem with the mindset that created it. We need to be of another kind of mindset, and that's the elevating mindset.
Correct. Well said. So I'm going to, ask you about another one of your steps. Decision making is critical in any leadership role. How does your book approach decide differently from conventional leadership decisions? And I'm sure you've seen these in your own career.
Yeah, so we are used to analyze a problem with problem-solving tools and so on. So that's very rational. In a complex world, in a world that is not clear, where new informations are coming and we need to connect to other kind of information, what is those other kind of information? Often we talk about intuition. So where is intuition? Wisdom, where is it? So that capacity is connecting to something often bigger than us. It can be having the faith in something that helps us to journey and have a better. So, but connecting to this capacity, to these references, if I may say, is important in the decision process. So gathering as much as information as we can mentally, rationally, that's perfect. But then letting those information come down and connecting with something that is of deeper wisdom, if I may say so, that is the decision I'm talking about.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And again, if we want to take the proper decision, we need to go further and answer or go through the next 3 steps. Because the more aligned I am with my purpose, the more aligned with my value system, the more aligned with understanding my emotional wounds, because they trigger my behaviors. So I need to understand what triggers me to behave in a certain way, which is ego, often the word that we use. So, and understanding the limiting belief that we constantly use to do an act, but they are limiting and they are not real. That understanding will help me to take the proper decision. And what is a proper decision? I think I have a simple definition. It's something that will serve humanity in the future. When I say humanity, it can be your family, but it's not enough to have your family, because often the family is an extended family. And when we think, am I taking a decision that will serve my family, the family of the people that I'm working, that are working with me, the family of my customers? And suddenly we realize that many of those decisions that we will have taken don't serve them.
Right.
And when I understand that, then I know it's not, in my understanding, a proper a decision that will really serve humanity on the long term. And I think as leaders, it's so important that we keep this in mind every day to help us to take proper decisions.
Thank you. I'm now going to come to another one of your steps, which is expect nothing in return. And as you were explaining to me in the beginning, I was reminded this is something which is straight out of the Gita, where Lord Krishna says, just do your work and don't expect anything in return. But from a business perspective, Matt, expect nothing in return sounds counterintuitive. Can you explain how the mindset benefits leaders and their organizations?
So on the first step, we say decide for what is linked to your purpose, your value system, of course, your needs, your intent. So to be concrete, yes, I may set goals, I may set concrete strategies, but when I say don't expect anything in returns is don't stay blocked in what we decided. We intend to go in that direction and do the best we can, as you say, just do the best we can towards this goal. Right. But when we think a little bit more, what make that goal real? What would make that goal succeed? Is it me? Or is it something much broader than me? And if I understand that sometimes COVID comes and everything is in turmoil,
Correct.
or a new regulation come and everything is changed. Some will make my business easier, others will make my business tougher. So once I understand that everything, I continue to do the best I can, but I'm not attached to the result. I'm not attached to what I'm doing. I'm just doing the best I can and don't expect anything in return. With that in mind, I am at peace with whatever happens to me. And with that, I can also become agile, which means I can change, adapt to a new reality that is here very quickly.
Yeah.
And continue just my journey. And the journey is linked to my purpose. It's a never-ending journey. So that's why it's a kind tricky, because I say, yes, but I don't expect, which means if the results are not here, correct, I won't be happy. But the point is, has a lot to do also with creating a trusting environment and myself trusting that when I do the best I can, and that has a lot to do with spirituality, I'll be helped by the universe. I'll be helped by the gods or whoever, or nature. I'll be helped with them. And what is wrong in my journey will manifest itself and allow me to change my journey. And what is right, when I say right, which means serving humanity again, or serving nature, serving life, will be helped. So with that, I can let go and continue to take the best decision that I can. And if I make a wrong decision, it's not a problem. Correct. I can change my decision. That's why it's so important. And I know it's a little bit tricky, but there is also another aspect which is, and that's more personal. What are we trying to do in life? Why are we here on earth, and what are we trying to do with this body and this soul? We're just trying to become the best version of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right? With that, on the journey, we just want to become at peace. So how can I be at peace? The moment I come at peace is linked to detachment. And in India, you have the Jain, and what I understand from the Jain philosophy is you work hard, you succeed, and then you give everything.
Absolutely.
But that capacity to detach makes you free, and you become really wise. So it's linked a little bit to that capacity, you see, to journey, do the best, but don't attach to it, and become free, become serene, become peaceful every day.
Very well said. Very well said. My next question for you is that, in your book, you advocate for using love as a guiding force. How can leaders practically apply this principle in decision making and in their interactions with their teams?
The point is understanding what love means, because there are two aspects or three aspects in love. The
Right.
first one is falling in love, where I lose my perception and I see and I project a lot of things. So that's not the love I'm talking about. The love I'm talking about is linked to accepting everything, every reality that is here. So if I am in a relationship with somebody, I accept that person as she or he is. This is real love. And that capacity is what I mean. Accepting, it helps us to accept the reality that is here.
Right.
And out of this reality, if we can influence the reality, but with the energy that around, I use words might be a little bit strange for the business world, but when I go in the flow that is serving life, and I am just a part of that flow, then this is love. This is accepting what it is. And when I say love, it means also, looking every day when somebody comes to you, looking at the beauty of that person and the capacities of that person and sharing it. So that once you look in the eyes of that person feels it and feels empowered and feel the capacity to do the best they can. Same with the nature that is around us. Same with the results of the customers or whoever that is around us, instead of being in a fighting mode. Because the other aspect is what we see in our world today. There is no love. It's just fight. And I need to succeed, and I need to compete, and I need to take advantage. And we see then we have a lot of, I say, leaders that are becoming kind of dictatorial, trying to impose things because a lot of people are lost. So the one that shouts and dare to shout strong. Now, is he shouting to serve life, like certain leaders like Lee Kuan Yew or other, or is he shouting because he feels wounded somewhere because he was not recognized when he was a child, or because feels that now he needs to be on the top and does it because of ego issues, and then he's fighting. And we see this, there is no love. It's just blaming, it's just putting people down, judging people, separating the group from another group. And we see this constantly. So the war is here. Now, as leaders, if we want to continue the war, yes, we will. And I will say something that you probably know. If humans don't serve life, human won't exist in this planet anymore. When? Oh, maybe in 1,000 years, or maybe in 200 years. But for sure, soon.
Well said.
Or we change our mindset and we really start to come back and serve life. And that's love that I'm meaning, entering in a relationship where I accept what it is fully and live with it and honor and serve what the gift that we received.
Well said. You also emphasize the importance of aligning actions and values. Can you help us understand how leaders can achieve this alignment?
So I think aligning with value is quite known in the business world today. Very simple. If I hire somebody, of course, we want to hire people that are capable. So often we look at people and look at their CVs and look at what they can perform. We bring them in the corporation and suddenly we see that they are not aligned with our value system. And it creates a lot of tension. On the contrary, if we start to hire people on their values, so we need to understand what are our values, how to measure them, how to identify them in people that are not yet in our corporation. So if they are aligned with the values, they also align very easily with the purpose that we have. So with them, we can become very agile, but whatever happens, they will stay and they will give their best. And we can train them to become efficient. This is easy. But it's very difficult to train somebody that is efficient but don't adhere to the value.
Right.
So it helps us in managing people to say what they are doing well and praise them on respecting the value and the purpose of the corporation. And also it helps us to correct people, not against them as an individual, but use the value system to say, hey, we're not aligned on the value. That's not okay, the behaviors that you have. Now, either you understand the value, and I'll help you to understand. And if you don't understand or don't adhere to that value, this is okay. It's your journey, but not in my corporation. Find the corporation that has the value system for you.
Well said.
And that's okay.
Well said. Matt, I have time for two more questions. My next question is, your book discusses embracing the unknown. How can leaders turn their fear of uncertainty into a strategic advantage?
The how is linked to don't expect anything in return. But as you mentioned, we journey in a world that is a lot of unknowns. Will tomorrow, do we gonna have enough food for the people that are around us? Will the air that we breathe still there? Is the climate, will the climate impact my, are the politician, the political structure, or today we have, let's say, most capitalist system, but we see that there are other systems coming more and more. You see what's happening with China, with Russia, with India also. And there are many changes in how a system is working together. So will my way of managing people or my belief system, how I should structure my corporation, depending on my beliefs, capitalist, not communist, because I don't think this will function anymore, but there are other ways, socialist, I don't know, how this will impact, I have no clue. So the moment I let this unknown, and when it happens, because I don't know it, when it happens, I enter in the unknown. It's like a fear. A fear is something that is in the back and make me journey, but as long as I'm not clear what is happening, as long as I just kept the fear, I'm not happy, I'm not at ease. To overcome a fear, I need to bring it in front and look at it. So it's exactly the same. It's unknown, but then I enter and observe and accept and journey. And I think all the big learnings that we had around during our life is linked to an experience that was unknown, and often an experience that was unpleasant. But because it was unknown, we practiced something that was unpleasant, and then we learn, really. And that's how we evolve.
Amazing, amazing. And my last question to you, Marc. What is the single most important piece of advice you would offer to a CEO who is looking to elevate their consciousness and lead more effectively?
Has to do with love again. And is love yourself, really. So when I say love yourself, is not just egoistic thing. Is really looking in our eyes in a mirror and starting to question, who am I? Really? Why am I here in this family, in this corporation, in this community? Why? Where do I come from? Really? Where do I go? And once we start to really love ourselves, which means taking the time to answer those deep questions for ourselves and doing everything I can then to be the best version of myself, this is loving myself. If I do this as a leader, of course, because as a leader, I'm observed and a lot of people will follow what I'm doing. Of course, I will teach people to do the same in their job, to do the same in the family. And of course, when we do so, we create abundance. We create peace.
Right, right. Well said. And on that note, Matt, thank you so much for speaking to me about your own journey. Thank you for going into such amazing depth about elevating CEO consciousness from your book. I just loved your 6 steps: pause, observe, decide, respect yourself, respect relationships, and don't expect anything in return. Thank you also for covering some of these 6 points, I wish I had much more time to keep on talking to you in much greater detail for all 6 of these, but I'm sure viewers and listeners, you can go and check out the book. And then if you have any questions, write into us and we'll try and get some responses from Matt. But thank you again for speaking to me, and all the very best to you.
Thank you, Ash.
Thank
I'm really honored. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.